Be the right club. Be the right club today. Yes!
Again, has to be careful of the speed.
What a comeback season for Hal Sutton.
Come right back toward the hole. How about in? That's the second eagle he's made it for this week.
17 years later, Hal Sutton is the Players' Champion.
He's got it going right at the flagstick. It'll be up. It is.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Be the Right Club Today podcast. Hal, what's happening?
Well, nothing. I've just been here hanging out at the academy, teaching people hopefully to hit it a little straighter. You've been on the mission here. Why don't you tell us about the Women's U.S. Open at the Olympic Club with Gurleen?
Well, first of all, I realized really quickly I'm not in good enough shape to do that week in and week out. My whole body still hurts. My legs hurt. My back hurts. I was joking with, I played a USAM there, we talked about last week, and I was joking with my teammate that played, or that caddied for me. I was like, man, I'm sorry, that this course is a lot hillier than I remember. And he was like, yeah, my back still hurts from that week caddying, he was joking around. But, it was an awesome experience. I mean, it was very surreal through 7 or 8 holes. We were a couple under par, or she was a couple under par, and being on the top of the leaderboard was kind of seeing it, and we weren't paying or trying not to pay that much attention to it, but it was just cool to see it, just to see a student of ours, that we've been working with or whatever. The golf course is just phenomenal. I thought the USGA did a really good job with that setup. We mentioned last week that the Monday, the rough was super long. Like, you hit it in the rough, you couldn't find your ball because they didn't have spotters out there at the time. And we were looking for balls on every hole. And they gradually cut it down a little bit and didn't make it quite as severe. It's one of the only golf courses I've ever played, again, that if you don't work it a certain way off the tee, you almost can't hit the fairway. Like, we talked about hole 5 might have been the toughest tee shot I've ever seen for them at the time. Like, we had very few girls hit the fairway there. Sunday, the last round, Gurleen hit a really good tee shot and rolled in the rough, and we had no shot. Like, it was just too thick, and she had 165 or 170 in out of really thick rough and just doesn't quite have the speed to get through it like the guys do. I thought she did. I was super proud of her. I thought she did an amazing job. We were 1 under for the tournament through 13 holes in the second round, and she hit the only really bad tee shot she hit all week. She hooked it on 14, and you just can't hit it left there, and she hit it in the junk, and we ended up taking an unplayable and hacked it around a little bit and ended up making triple, and she was losing steam a little bit, bogey the next hole, and then finished strong, finished par, birdie par, and Gurleen's just really resilient and isn't she's not afraid of the moment, and it was a very surreal feeling for me to, I caddied for you a couple times. I caddied in the U.S. Senior Open a few years back for Denny Edwards, and I've caddied in a couple PGA Tour events. And this one felt, you and I were working on your swing at the time and stuff, and so it felt like kind of a student-coach relationship. Not really as much with you and I. It was more like just kind of a friendship, relationship. But this was the first one that was like, man, I was on the bag for a player that I've been working with for a long time, and at an event like that was a very surreal experience for me. The last 2 rounds we shot in the 80s both days, but she really didn't hit it that bad. We just kind of got in bad spots, and as you know, U.S. Open will just kind of expose you a little bit, and it's hard to keep grinding and give it. Not that she wasn't giving it her all, but it's just different after you made a couple bogeys and we got 4 or 5 holes left, and it's easy for the golf course to really chew you up. But it was, again, it was a long week, and I'm still recovering from the week, but it was I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was an unbelievable experience.
Well, having played in a bunch of U.S. Opens, I know how the USGA can set golf courses up, and you're a moment away from a mistake all the time that gets amplified by the severity of the golf course. And, you know, I texted Girlene and told her I thought she had done an amazing job, you know, after the first 2 days. You know, she elevated her game to be at that point. And, you know, I know Girlene well enough as you do that she expects a lot out of herself. And, you know, I didn't want her to feel like she had failed because she had a tough weekend. She had a very successful week. It didn't finish the way she wanted, nor I'm sure you, but at the same time, as we say around here all the time, you don't fail, you learn.
Right.
And there were many learning experiences in what she did.
For sure. We finished on 8, you know, because 9's, you either start on hole 1 or hole 9 there. You don't go all the way out to 10 because 10's not by the clubhouse. And so we finished on 8, which I don't know have you played any other U.S. Opens that didn't start on 1 or 10 that started on?
Well, I don't know I can't remember what they did. It's been too long ago. I played there at the U.S. Open.
And I was trying to think, too, even I think when we played the USAM, I think they shuttled us out to 10. I think they did, if I can remember right. But anyway, we were coming up 8, the last hole for Sunday. And you know, she wasn't super thrilled and just kind of down. And I was like, gee, if you take more negatives than positives out of this week, you're crazy. You know, because she's just, you know, those players, they're not used to playing golf courses that hard, and one, they're not used to shooting in the 80s or high 70s, you know, and so, but it's just, you know, these little mistakes that just got completely compounded by the severity of the situation, you know, and you know, we've been preaching this a lot on here, but it really rang true. I looked back and, you know, it was like we had to be completely, I mean, every shot we had a plan. I mean, and I'm talking 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet left of the flag, right of the flag. Like, because if you hit it in certain spots out there, you were looking at triple or quad. Like we played with pros both days, both the first 2 rounds. Both of them missed the cut. And I saw them take on shots that I'm like, this is crazy. They don't need to be doing this, you know. And these are the girls that have been out there for a while. It's like you need to be aiming 30 feet right at where you're aiming. I was thinking back, we probably aimed right at about 5 pins, and it was just because we had the right wind or just because we had a wedge or the right number. But it was completely like 4. You know, the approach shot on 4. There's a lot of slope left to right, as you know. Wind's blowing off the left. We got 5 or 6 iron in our hands, and I mean, at times we were aiming 30 yards left of the flag, you know, and completely committed to it. And you know, 3 out of the 4 times she hit great shots into that hole and hit it kind of where we wanted to, and we were on the middle of the green. You know, it was just one of those holes you hit it right there, you were just stone dead. And so that really stuck out to me, like complete plan before every shot, and then it was up to her to commit to it and you know, go through with it. And then the second thing, and it kind of echoes on what I was just talking about, but was just the decade system at a U.S. Open, as far as like just not taking on. Like there were times we'd hit it in the rough, and it was like, all right, try and get it to the front edge, try and hit it into that bunker. You know, like because we had to plot our way and give ourselves. She's a great bunker player, so we were trying to hit it in bunker there to give ourselves a chance to get some spin on it and hit it close. And it was just a complete plotters type golf course. And I'll never forget how that golf course really makes, and I'm sure every U.S. Open's like this, but it just felt like with Olympic, like you literally had to hit it from point A to point B to point C, and if you ever you lost your focus, you were looking at F and G real fast because you're looking at 5, 6, or 7. It would completely turn on you that fast.
I think the thing that you probably would agree with after being out there, you know, to me, playing golf at the highest level is exhausting mentally because you have to have a plan. You have to consciously come up with the plan. You have to commit to the plan, and then you have to execute to the plan, and then you have to accept the result. And it's constant. It's shot after shot after shot. You can't leave.
Ever.
You can't ever leave. If you leave, it's so hard to get it back. And, you know, USGA always puts you in that spot. I mean, you know, I always felt like it was on the edge. They prided themselves actually on getting the golf course as close to the edge as they could.
And we, I mentioned this off air, but Jason Gore is now kind of director of player relations with USGA or whatever. He's kind of a liaison between the players and the USGA. And I saw him before the third or the final round, and we were talking about the setup. And again, I thought on Monday, 10 over par would have won the tournament. It was unbelievably thick. I was thinking, man, there's some places I've got a lot of club head speed, and I would have had to hit a wedge sideways. Like, it was so thick. And he said, they cut it down quite a bit, going into the first round. And he made the comment, he was like, look, this golf course is hard enough. And he said the other thing is, he goes, if we do our jobs right, somebody should shoot under par. And to me, I think that's a great mindset to have for these type of tournaments where, back in the day, it always seemed like, and when you guys played, it was like USA wanted even par to win. You guys were way too good for that. Like, if even par wins, man, or if you set, I guess I'd say it like this: if you set the golf course up like that, where even par is going to win, and then the wind blows 20 or 30, then you have, was it Shinnecock or was it Shinnecock?
Shinnecock.
Yeah, where they lost the 15th green or 14th green.
Hit the moving ball.
Yeah, hit it off the green. They just lose the golf course. But I really thought, outside of the only hole out there that I thought was kind of borderline edgy was number 5. We mentioned it. You almost couldn't hit that fairway. It was so narrow, and I would like to ask them at some point, hopefully we'll get the chance, why they just didn't move that tee box back and make it a par 5 and play it as a 72. They played it at like 410 on that hole, but they could have moved it back to 440, 450, and it would have been a driver 3-wood for most of those girls. It would have been a pretty good little par 5. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I completely agree with you. Like, most golf courses you play, you get through the tee shot, most golf courses, even the normal PGA Tour courses, they might have 1 or 2 holes where it's like, you better buckle down on the tee shot and you better buckle down on the second shot.
Right.
And I bet all but 2 holes out there, like hole number 2 is a great example. It's a good little par 4. You've got to hit the fairway there. If you don't hit the fairway, you're laying up. Like, you almost can't go for the green. But then you hit the fairway. Now you got to buckle down and hit it within, a 15-foot circle to find the green. And we were really sharp the first 2 days, and we just weren't quite as sharp the next 2 days, and we ran out of energy, and it just, again, it's a US Open. It was supposed to be tough.
Well, that's one of the things too, energy. You mentioned energy. It requires a lot of energy, both mentally and physically, to play a USGA event like that.
Yep.
And have a great week. So, I was really proud of Gurlene. I think you probably were too. Yep. And
one of 3 amateurs in the world to make the cut this year at the US Open. That was pretty cool. Going a little further into that, what did you watch Sunday? Did you watch the final?
I did.
What did you think of? What would your message be to Lexi? Okay, so I'm going to go a little further than this. Did you see Brandl's analysis of
no, on the putter?
Yeah, of her on the putt. She hit on 1. Did you see the putt?
I didn't see that.
So she hits it to 6 feet and 2 for birdie, or for eagle. Because I saw she made birdie on 1. We were kind of following along, and I saw Yasso and the other girl, the amateur, kind of got off to a rough start. She had a 6-footer for eagle on 1, and it looked like she almost missed it. Like, you could physically see her hit it as drastically off the toe. And I saw this afterwards, and Brandon was talking about just how bad of a stroke that was, how nervous of a stroke that was. I just didn't know if you happened to see any of that.
No, I didn't see it. And I hate commenting on a collapse like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure she considers it a collapse. And I've had a collapse like that. And, her main focus has to be coming out of this. I won't let that define me.
Yeah.
And, I've been nervous over putts like that. I've had my hands shaking a lot. But, I never almost missed the putt with it. I might have missed the putt, but I didn't miss the sweet spot with it.
Right.
Face might have been a little open or a little shut or something like that. Tough scenario. She wants to win bad.
Yep.
She wanted that to define her winning.
Yeah. And to me, the collapse would be different if it was at. I remember you told the story. Was it at Disney, and then you won the.
No, it was at Kingsmill at Anheuser-Busch.
Okay, at Busch. with it being a USO, like she shot 41 on the back nine. Like she and a bunch of other players shot 41 on the back nine. She just happened to do it with a 4 or 5 shot lead with 7 or 8 holes to play, and the world was watching. 18. She didn't look like she had much in. We were watching from the clubhouse, so we saw it live. And right when she hit it, I thought, oh, that's short. And sure enough, it went in the bunker. Like, that's a mistake. You've got to be hitting it 10 feet past that hole, because she just makes par. She's in the playoff.
Right.
If she spins it back, she's got a 10-footer for birdie. Anyway, Brandel was kind of going on about how her short games just consistently let her down, and she needs to make some changes. But I was just curious if you watched it. I felt like getting on there on Twitter and defending her a little bit, just because we walked that course at that day and saw how difficult, and felt how difficult, like 17 green, and that whole hole is so difficult. And she made bogey and we made bogey, and we did it the exact same way she did. She laid up to 100 yards. We laid up to 100 yards. We thought we hit a good wedge shot, and it came up 10 feet, 15 feet short, rolls all the way back off the green, and we made bogey. It wasn't, you miss it short there, it's not an easy situation. So, I felt like defending her, but I didn't stray off into the Twitter abyss you can get caught up into.
Well, everybody has an opinion, and everybody could do it better that's not there. And you brought up a great point. We were there. We saw how hard it was, and it was, I'm sure. But Lexi's trying to be the best in the world,
right.
And you can't leave in situations like that. You got to endure the pressure. You got to stand up to it. And, there'll be a lot of people that'll voice their opinions about this, and have voiced their opinions about it. And her future lies on her putting it behind her, evaluating where mistakes were made, where her caddy made mistakes, because I can tell you right now, if I'd have been her caddy standing out in the 18th hole, I'd have been describing to her exactly what you just said. We cannot be short here. We've got to hit it past the hole.
Oh, yeah.
He might have. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
And, but those things have to be talked about. Those things have to be, right, wrong, or indifferent. You got to decide.
Well, and speaking just from my week too, if he's worth his weight in anything, and I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's a great cat. I don't know who he is, but I've thought back 100 times on how I could have been better as a caddy. Like, what could I have done a little bit differently? And because we misread some putts that I probably overstepped my read or went farther into it than I probably should have, and just let her take the read. But I'm sure he's second guessing a lot of that stuff too, and just trying to figure out, because they came up short on 2 straight wedge shots that were uphill and into a quartering wind, and I'm sure she didn't miss hit both of them. She might have missed hit one of them, but they might have just bit off a little bit more than they can chew on that number on 18, perhaps. Again, all speculative. Who knows?
Well, she's going to view that as a failure.
Oh, sure.
And I never had a failure. I viewed a lot of things as a failure too, and I never had one that I didn't go back and go over everything and try to come up with what was wrong. And I know my caddy did as well.
Yep.
And my hope is that they figure out what was wrong, and Lexi ends up a better golfer out of this,
So what's your message to our listeners at home that, say, did something similar to Lexi in a club championship, or, just a local tournament that they had a lead, or even if it might have been to shoot their personal best at their home course in a money game? And the last 4 or 5 holes, I hate the term choking. I always have, just because to me, like, I don't know, we can get lost in this, but it's easy to let it snowball when the conditions are tough, or when you're a little nervous, or whatever. What's your message to how do you overcome it? If you were talking to Lexi, or again our listeners at home that had it happen to them, how do you overcome something like this?
Well, there's no doubt that she was feeling the pressure because of the enormity of what she's trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to everybody in a collapse situation. They're not thinking about what's actually happening at hand. They're thinking about hoisting the trophy. They're thinking about, this is going to change my life. This is going to, just the elevation of what they're trying to achieve at that time is causing their mind to jump time.
Right.
And, staying in the moment, stringing one good shot next to another good shot is really all we can do. I mean, y'all need to listen to me when I tell you this. That's all you can do. You can't eagle the 7th hole while you're on the 1st hole. You can't par the 18th hole when you're on the 10th hole. I mean, our mind gets ahead of us. And when it gets ahead of us, mistakes start happening.
That's exactly right. How do you... I guess what I would to aspiring golfers, I would say like that situation is inevitable. Meaning, every great player has given something away at some point. Whether again it's to break 70 for the first time or it's to win some little tournament. I mean, everyone's felt it. And my message to all of our kids is: look, the only way you're going to get through this is to go put yourself in that situation again and just see how you see if you can handle the pressure and correct some of the mistakes that you think you made. Do you agree with that?
Totally. I mean, I'm not going to shy away from something that I wasn't as good as I wanted to be at one time. I'm going back there to see if I can handle it better the second time. And, you know, that's what makes us love the game so much, you know. I mean, I want to get better. Everybody out there wants to get better. I want to get better at situations, too. That's a situational thing there. You know, she was as good a player on the back nine as she was on the first nine. She just didn't handle it correctly on the back nine.
Yeah.
She was the same player.
Yeah, the finish line was creeping up and started to, you know, and it happens to all of us, but it starts to kind of get in the mind, okay, I got to do this to get in, I got to do this. And like you said, she makes double on 12, so now her mind is on 15, 16, starting to get ahead a little bit, like, what do I got to do? And it's like, nope, you got to bring it back. And it's really difficult to do, but we have to strive to do it as best as we can every time.
Well, you know, going back to this, you know, when I won the PGA, I had a 4-shot lead and I bogeyed 12, 13, and 14 in a row, and I had just the previous tournament blown a 6-shot lead. And I was sitting on the 15th tee and obviously didn't have the tee because I was made 3 bogeys in a row. And I took the towel, put my head inside the towel and said, we cannot let this define us. And all I can do at this point about this is drive it in the fairway on 15. That's all I could do. That's the only thing that would help me get to the finish line where I wanted to. I couldn't think about the putt I had to make on the hole. I couldn't think about the iron shot I was going to have to hit. I couldn't think about teeing off on 18.
Right.
I could only hit the tee shot on 18. So when I took the towel, my head out of the towel, I said, okay, fairway, fairway, fairway. That's all I'm thinking about. And all I was trying to do was bring my mind back to where I was at right there. And we talk about it on here a lot. Stay in this 6-foot circle right here. That's all you can control. You know, you have a little control over your caddy. You don't even have full control over your caddy. So if you take the clubs, the only thing you've got control over is the clubs that are in that bag and what you're about to do with it. That's it. And if you control that, you got a chance.
That's exactly right. And you can't, you know, the other thing that you mentioned too, you can't think about the 3 bogeys.
No,
you know,
you can't.
like they're done.
They're done.
With. That's what I know I struggle with a lot was the past. Like what happened. I snap hooked it in the rough on 14 and made bogey, so now I'm worried about the snap hook on 15 or, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's, you can only control or you can only focus on the next thing that's ahead of you. What is it? What's the plan? What are we trying to do?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Everybody out there, you want to win your club championship, stay in the present. So we got a fun guest today.
Big Mike.
Big Mike. He's Mike Visacki. Y'all might have followed him a little bit. It's quite a story. He was emotional calling his dad when he qualified. Really touched a lot of our hearts because, you know, we've all been there trying to chase our dream somewhere in the journey. And, you know, we all got to live a little bit of it with his journey. So y'all enjoy the podcast. We're looking forward to talking to Big Mike.
Yep.
All right, Mike, let's get started here. Your story is inspiring to so many people. Welcome to the podcast, first of all. And, you know, Chase and I both have been inspired by your story. We've watched, and, you know, I'm sure our students are going to be intrigued, and all the people that listen to us, you know, we're excited to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Mike, tell us a little bit more about yourself, how you got into the game, a little bit of background about you.
Yeah, so I was a bowler and a tennis player back before I picked up the game. of golf. Stopped bowling. Then I was playing a little bit of tennis. And then my dad was watching this two couples on our miniature golf course in our hometown, and watched this older gentleman put 3 balls in the water and goes, "Oh, I can do that. It's pretty simple." And he goes, "Okay, let me try and pick that up." So he did, and since then he's not stopped playing. And I eventually said that on my 8th birthday that I would come in and start playing golf with you. He goes, "Okay," and then since then, never stopped touching the club.
That's
awesome.
We're
awesome.
20 years into it almost.
Mike, do you think tennis helped? Was that made it an easier segue to golf?
No, not really. Tennis was always, you're facing one person. You only got to worry about one person. Where in golf, you got to sometimes worry about the whole field, but also you are playing against the golf course, and things change. You're not always. You don't get a mulligan after you hit a bad shot or have an error. That's the beauty about golf, where you hit it, then you're going to play that next shot right there, no matter whether you hit it out of bounds or in the water.
Sure. That's exactly right. And I guess the reason I asked was just from a lot of baseball players come into the academy and slice it off the planet, but we'll get some tennis guys that come in and understand a little bit about how the wrists are supposed to work and topspin forehand, cut shots, and all that stuff. So a lot of times my ears perk up when somebody says, "Oh, I played tennis." I'm like, "Okay, sweet. You got some, a little bit of awareness of club face when it comes to golf."
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your parents.
Yeah. They actually met in New York back. I don't remember. And my dad was working, doing construction, and he saw her walking down the street and eventually ended up getting her number. And it was crazy that they were both from the same country. So they hit it off right there and then.
And they're from Serbia, right?
Yeah, they're both from Serbia. They're about 50 miles apart. They didn't even know each other until they both moved to New York. My dad said he moved here when he was 15, and my mom moved when she was 19.
Awesome.
That's a great story. So, Mike, you got the invitation to play in the Charles Schwab Challenge.
Yes.
What was that like? The invite?
Oh, it was. I went to the bathroom and then I sat back down, and I was drinking a water, and then all of a sudden, Mr. Schwab calls and says, "Yeah, my name is Charles Schwab," and I just literally dropped the water out of my hand, like, "Oh my God, Mr. Charles Schwab is calling me, the man himself." It was just unbelievable, and to play with him in the practice round of the event, he's a very, very humble person.
Well, I know Mr. Schwab. I played with him in the AT&T a lot of years ago, and I want to bring up something here that I think maybe you should think about a little bit. Life is full of great things and bad things, and the fact that he called you and started a little relationship with that, invited you to play in his tournament, and long time ago I started a relationship with a guy named Sandy Weil, who was chairman of the board of Citigroup at the AT&T, and it was long-standing, basically. So, life dealt you a really good hand right there, is what I'm trying to say, and I know you know that. And things happen for a reason. So that was a good thing, and I'm sure you realize that.
Yeah, it was truly eye-opening. I mean, so humble. I'm probably one of the most humble people you'll ever meet, and for that to happen, I'm truly grateful for what he did.
Yeah.
Tell us about getting to play with old Charles Barkley.
Yeah, man. I don't even know why he hits a tee shot. Every shot's right down the middle. I was just telling him, just drop it by the 150 mark and then play golf in, because every shot was just straight. I offered. I was like, "Hey, can I take some of those shots, please?"
So you didn't see any of the old school Charles Barkley kind of flinch halfway down on the downswing?
No, he played great.
He's cured it. He's cured it, huh?
Yeah, I said, "I'll take you in a partner and we'll play anybody anytime."
That's so good. You know, speaking of your game, talk to us a little bit about your strengths and weaknesses as a player.
Yeah, strengths are I'm pretty much known for my ball striking, driving, and pretty much my three were my two favorite clubs in the bag. Let's just say that. I'm a good wedge player and good with distance control, where I think that's where I really pick up shots on the field, and still working on the short game aspect of it. So that's what we need to do to get better to be able to compete on the PGA Tour.
Well, you just segued me right into the next question. You've won 37 times on the Florida West Coast Tour.
Yes.
You've been played in 2 PGA Tour events.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, have you got what it takes? And if you don't have what it takes, do you know what you need to work on in order to reach your dream?
Yes, I know what I need to do, and playing those 2 PGA Tour events definitely opened my eyes to what I need to do to improve to be able to be out there full time. It's a whole different world, and I'm ready to join it pretty soon.
All right. So what is it you've got to do? I'm curious. I want to hear it.
Yeah, I need to work a little bit more on my putting for sure, 100%. Because growing up here, I always grew up on slower greens, and making the transition into faster greens is sometimes a little bit difficult for me. Working on lag putting, pitching, using kind of being a little bit more creative with short game area.
Mm-hmm.
In mini tours event, all the rough is cut down. Yes, they're close to the edges, but with the rough not being so high, you can kind of just attack it. And if you miss the green, you can just get an easy up and down. Where on the PGA Tour, rough is a lot thicker, and you just got to be a little bit more creative.
Imagination is the 15th club in the bag.
Yes, it is.
I tweeted out not long ago, how many clubs do you have in your bag? And I wasn't speaking literally. Everybody has the same number of clubs, 14. But the key to being out there is being able to have a lot more clubs in your bag because of the imagination that you've got. And I'm sure you noticed that in the 2 events that you played in.
Yes. It's completely different. You thought one thing, and then another thing presents it, and that's the beauty about the PGA Tour.
Yeah. So who'd you get to play with when you played the 2 events?
So the first Valspar, I played with Hank Libiota, who I actually played junior golf with growing up.
Okay.
And Brad Amadonis, I believe. I know he's played a couple years on the PGA in Corn Ferry, but he's also a grinder just like me right now. And then at Colonial, I played with Keith Clearwater, a past champion at Colonial, and John Augustine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Mike, how were the crowds? Were they?
Crowds were awesome. Yeah, it's a whole lot different coming from the mini tour life where you don't have anyone really watching you to now all of a sudden you got 50 to 200 people watching you hit every golf shot. That's also another thing that's a lot different. Everyone's looking at everything you do.
Well, they want to see you play well, though, Mike. One of the first things that I had to learn whenever I went out there was I said to Jack Nicklaus in the U.S. Open one time, I was paired with him and scared to death. He was my boyhood idol, and I was like 7 over after the first 8 holes at Marion. And I walked over to him and I said, Mr. Nicklaus, I said, I am worried to death, scared to death, nervous. What do you do? How do you do this? And he said, Hal, he said, everybody here wants to see you play well, including me. He said, just relax and do your thing. And that's all he had to say. I was like 2 under from there in. And, it was just a complete different mindset. And you'll learn how to do that in time. You'll get more comfortable. Actually, it's easier to play in front of a lot of people than it is out there because the people become the frame of the picture. So your depth perception, everything gets better when there's a lot of people around.
Yes, 100%.
Mike, talk a little bit about your relationship with JT.
Yeah, JT was playing at the PGA Championship, and I believe either Thursday or Friday. He messaged me and he was like, "Hey, bud, you want to play a practice round on Tuesday?" I was like, "Yes." And but unfortunately, we didn't end up playing because it got rained out. So next time I get another one, we'll definitely want to play together.
And then talk a little bit about, obviously, he's helped you with your journey going forward. Obviously we don't need to get into the finer details of that, but like how did that all come about? And, just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to sign my scorecard and I saw him just hanging out there with his dad and just came over just to talk to him, see how he played. And he just wanted to congratulate me, saying that this is success. I would just want to help you out a little bit and continue to let you live your dream, trying to get out here as soon as possible. And I'm very grateful for what he did.
So awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. I think, the first time we came in touch with you is when you were calling your dad, and so excited and so overtaken with the joy of reaching your dream.
Yes.
And then to see other players like JT, be inspired by that and want to help you reach your dream is that's really a cool thing. And that's why we talked about having you on here. I think people want to hear more from you. They want to get to know you. They want to follow you, and I know I do, and I think Chase does as well. So this is a joy for us to get to know you a little better.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
So what's upcoming plans? What's next?
Yeah, so I'll actually leave for on Monday to go to St. Louis and play the Metropolitan Open. I finished third there last year, so I have some pretty good memories about that golf course. So I'm going to continue to go out and play well out there. And then a G Pro event the following week in North Carolina, and then have a week off, and then go do 2 or 3 Monday qualifiers.
Okay, good.
Pre-qualifying and then Monday qualifying, obviously. So still want to be able to get out there as soon as possible. It's a whole different world, and I absolutely love it. It's like being in the pond and then going to the ocean.
Talk a little bit about, Michael, the miniature life for those of our listeners out there listening that haven't ever really experienced it or don't know anything about it. The Jiggy Jack Tour, as Colton the boys call it.
Yeah. Oh man, where do I start? It's first off comes golf courses that we play. Not they're all not the best of the best, unlike the PGA events. When practicing, you're using the golf course's range balls. So sometimes it might be some pinnacle flighted golf balls, or some range balls, or where there's a water range. Sometimes one time I had a club crack the round warming up before the round, so that was not very fun. Not having to pay for yardage books. Yardage books can get kind of expensive here and there. Definitely my favorite's the courtesy car. Getting the courtesy car for the week. Yeah,
no Lexuses on the mini tours.
No. Sometimes before I had my car, I was like, man, I hope my car can get there.
So how was the food in the locker room at the tour?
Oh, it's like heaven. Not having to pay for food. All the water, all the Powerade. I mean, it's like a kid in a candy store. That's the way I call it.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Hal. Sorry.
Well, life is really good once you finally reach your dream out there. The tour takes care of everybody. They provide a place to play golf for an awful lot of money with your friends.
Yes.
I spent 25 years out there, man, and I miss my friends. And, I don't necessarily miss playing golf. I'm too old to compete like that anymore.
Don't say that.
Unfortunately, sometimes we got to look at the truth, Mike. And, I've got 3 artificial joints now. So God makes our joints a lot better than man does. And, but I just want to say to everybody listening out there, the dream is first and foremost in many people's minds, yours included. And once you finally got a taste of it, you want more of it too, don't you?
Oh, 100%. 100%. There's nothing else I want to do besides live my dream and being able to play on the PGA Tour. And everything that everyone's done for me, it's given me hope. It's opened my eyes. And, if everyone would be able to experience it, they would probably say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you've won 37 times, as Hal mentioned, on the Florida, the little Florida tour, the West Coast tour, the
West Florida Golf Tour. Yep.
We talk a lot about mindset on here. How can you take the mindset that you have when you tee up on the West Florida tour to the PGA Tour?
Ooh. Yeah, playing on the West Florida Tour for the last 4.5, 5 years has been great. It's prepared me, there's still a lot of good players out there, and it prepares me to be able to compete out on the big events. And that's what I've been doing. I play about almost as many as I can to stay fresh and focused for the next Monday qualifier or Corn Ferry Monday. Especially, I play so much just because they're all almost in my backyard. Half the events are within 25 minutes of me, which I don't have to, again, worry about staying in a hotel, not spending a lot of money on gas, being able to sleep in my own bed. Sometimes it is a little comforting, but I have no problem getting ready to go travel. But just the mindset is a lot different, where the PGA events, exactly where you are, what you're doing, and where sometimes mini tour events, you don't know, what you need to do until the last hole, because that's when all the scores normally post, not hole by hole. Or like when we see on the shot tracker, it tells you, oh, you are 55 yards from the pin. I find that stuff really cool, just after the round being able to see, where the mistakes were, where in a mini tour event, you just have to be able to go back in your brain and hopefully you remember where you hit your shots at. So that's also pretty cool about the PGA Tour. They have that the shot tracer app, which is awesome.
So another thing we talk a lot about on here, Mike, is commitment. Now that you've gotten a taste of the tour, is your commitment level both for each shot that you're presented with and your commitment level to your journey? Is it in place? Does it need to be upped? What do you think after you've done that?
It definitely needs to be upped 100%. Sometimes playing mini tour golf, and that I've won so many times, sometimes I do tend to slack a little bit. But playing the PGA Tour events definitely re-upped my focus to make sure to commit to every shot 100%, not just say, oh, don't worry about this. If I don't play well, then, I can probably win or come second. Where out on the tour, sometimes that's the difference between making a cut and not making the cut. So it's definitely opened my eyes to commit and be much more focused playing the mini tour events until I get on the PGA Tour.
One of the things that I would suggest to you is when you go out there the next time, just string one good shot next to another good shot next to another good shot and wait on the opportunities to come. Don't force it to come. When I finally figured that out, you're a good enough player. If you made it out there, you're a good enough player to do this. Just string one good shot, and you know what the good shot is. It doesn't have to be 5 feet every time. It can be 15 feet. It can be 25 feet. And wait on that opportunity to come. Seize the opportunities when they come and just be patient. And that's hard to do sometimes.
Definitely playing mini tour golf, you kind of feel like you can't be patient. You just have to fire at every flagstick because that's how we make our money. sometimes the difference between third and sixth is a lot of money, and you don't want to lose out on the potential money that you would have made if you didn't hit that bad shot. So it's definitely an eye opening playing the 2 PGA Tour events.
Mike, you mentioned the commitment that it takes when you're a little bit of different commitment level, let's say at the PGA Tour. For those listening at home that don't really understand how to truly commit to a shot, we've talked about it a lot on here, but I'd like to hear in your words, like how do you commit to a golf shot? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the difference between what I've learned in the 2 PGA events is from the mini tour golf is that normally when I look at, let's just say, a fairway, it used to be, okay, let's hit the shot where we don't want it to go. Well, let's say if there's trouble on the right, let's not go right. Let's stay away from there. To where now trying to commit is picking a specific target on the left center of the fairway and hitting it as close as possible to that target. And if you don't hit it, if you're 5 yards left or 5 yards right, you're still probably in the fairway rather than worrying about where not to miss. And playing in those events has helped me regenerate my focus to picking a specific target. And then if I don't hit it, but if it's close to enough, then I can be satisfied hitting my shots at the target.
Hal, thoughts?
Shooting at a bullseye is much easier than trying to throw it against the wall.
Yes.
And
yep.
So I would totally agree with you on that. You must commit to a certain type of shot, a certain place to hit it, and then accept the results. Don't hit any shot without having some level of commitment to what you're trying to do. And I think you probably found that out firsthand when you go out and play on the tour.
Yes, I did.
So, Mike, I just got back from caddying for one of our players at the Women's U.S. Open, and I've had the opportunity to caddy for Hal a couple of events on the Champions Tour. Rumor has it you're looking for a caddy. What are you looking for? What's a good trait or some traits that you're looking for in a caddy? And you can say keep up and shut up. That's completely fine. Like that's what I've had to do.
No, I don't like a lot of information. I'm always kind of keep everything kind of to myself type of person, but I definitely just understanding, being a professional caddy, you understand the game of golf. It doesn't take very much to impress me. I just want to be able to talk to somebody, have a good time, and if I'm doing something wrong, that they can just talk to me and say, hey, let's sharpen up a little bit over here. You're slipping. Let's refocus. Let's get back to playing big Mike golf and just enjoy having fun on the golf course because, it's just a game.
Well, it is just a game, but it's your journey. And I know that's important to you. And, you've given us some inspiring moments here, being able to watch your journey a little bit. And having you on the podcast today is, I'm sure, giving several thousand people a little more insight into you and more to be interested in and follow your journey. So, Big Mike, we appreciate you coming on. We're pulling for you. Anything we can do to help you at the Hal Sutton Academy, we'll be happy to do it. Just stay committed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Talk to you guys soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. We're back. That was fun talking to Big Mike.
It was fun. Super nice guy. I've felt the journey a little bit with him just because, I'm a little older than he is, but when I was 27, I was still trying to battle it out on the mini tours and understand the mini tour life. And he cracked me up when he said there's no car. He didn't get a Lexus at any of the mini tour events because you're the food's whatever you want to eat from whatever fast food place you want to eat from and all that stuff. But One thing I was thinking about, and I almost mentioned it, but I was thinking about how there's times where social media is good and there's times where social media was bad. And where we live in a world where there's video cameras everywhere. This was a great example of how somebody turning on a video camera and capturing a moment has done a lot of really good for somebody's life. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think that I don't know Big Mike at all other than us just talking to him just now, but I think he was overwhelmed with everything that was happening based on the way he acted. I hope he can take things from that and use it in his journey going forward. Ask him, at one point on there, I asked him, did he have what it took, your level of commitment? Do you need to change the way you do this or not? And, I purposely wanted to ask that question because I wanted him to think about it if he hadn't already thought about it, and he wants this, and evaluate what you're we talk about inventory. Take your inventory, and I'm sure he's analyzing his inventory of what he has, his tools.
Talk a little bit about how he's again won a ton of times on his, we'll call it his little local tour that he's played on. So obviously he's comfortable. Obviously he believes that he's one of the best players out there. If he didn't, he wouldn't have won 37 times. How, in your mind, how does he get that same mindset on the PGA Tour? Because to me, that was the most difficult part for me when I qualified for bigger events or whatever. It was like, did I belong? Did I? In college, my freshman year, my sophomore year, I wasn't as good. My junior, senior year, I felt like, okay, I can hang with these guys. I can beat these guys. And as you get more and more comfortable, it's like playing your home golf course the first couple times versus the 100th time. How does he make that transition to, the big tour?
Well, he gave us some details on there about how he played the tour, aiming at the flag a lot and all that sort of stuff. And he's comfortable doing that. He's figured out how to do that. In order to make the next step, he's going to have to get out of his comfort zone. He's going to have to go to other places and play. And, he's going to have to get out of West Florida. And, Tampa was in West Florida.
Yeah,
so I'm sure that area is where he's talking about. And, went to Fort Worth and it didn't fare quite as well. I'm sure he felt a little bit like a fish out of water. Loved it. Yeah. I'm sure he loved the situation. You hit great range balls. You get a 7-course meal 3 times a day, and you're driving a Lexus. He talked about how much that, he was overwhelmed with that.
Sure.
But by the same token, he's got to get inside the ropes, and he's got to drive it in the first fairway and hit the next shot that he's wanting to hit and stay within that little 6-foot circle. I know for a fact, we didn't go into this, but, he was looking at everything.
Sure.
This is the world I want. I want to take it all in. And in order to be in that world and stay in that world, you got to stay right here. And, there were things that were happening all around me when I was playing, and I'm sure this is a case of everybody that's been out there for a long period of time. And someone would say, did you see that? And I said, no, I didn't see that. I wasn't paying attention to that.
Right.
I was paying attention to what I was having to do here.
So hard, too, with, him being the kind of the next big thing or the social media darling where everybody's yelling at him, Big Mike, and, there's just a lot of noise.
Well, and he talked about he didn't play in front of anybody, and all of a sudden he's playing in front of people, and right. I'm certain that that's true, and that bothered me a little bit when I first went out there. But as I pointed out to him, it becomes an asset to have all the people out there.
For sure.
And, once you start to view things the way they really are, you can settle in.
I love playing golf courses that had, people lining the fairways or lining the rough versus when it was bare, because it was, again, you talked about aiming at the bullseye versus the wall, and it almost forces you to pick more specific targets than just kind of seeing this bigger, broader picture.
Well, to me, when I'm playing a golf course and there's nobody out there, it's like looking at a picture with no frame on it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you put the crowd out there and everything else, and now all of a sudden the frame is around it. You know exactly what you're looking at and exactly where you're going. And
if he gets status, say he gets a couple more sponsors exemptions and makes it, finishes top 10 and gets some status, or goes through Q school. I don't think I've ever asked you this question. What do you think about his caddy? And more specifically, do you think he needs an experienced caddy that knows the golf courses? Or do you think he needs somebody that's more of an acquaintance of his, a friend of his that knows him?
Well, I chose the acquaintance, the friend of mine, the person that knew me. I was criticized early on when I went out there with Freddie because they said I needed a caddy that knew the golf courses. So in a perfect world, and this perfect world doesn't exist,
right,
it's a caddy that knows you and knows the golf courses. But if I only could choose one, I'd take the person that knows me.
Yeah.
You can figure out, if you've got a lot of game, you got enough game to be out there, you can figure out the golf course pretty quick. Once one of the things that I said, you're not trying to birdie every hole, you're just trying to string one good shot next to the next, and then you seize the opportunities as they present themselves. He goes out there and he's got a one-shot deal. He's trying to seize each shot.
Yeah.
And, he that's the beauty of once you get on the tour, you have your card. You don't have to play like you got to seize every shot. You don't have to define yourself this 36 holes, this 72-hole event. And that's what he feels like he's got to do right now.
That's the mini tour life. Like I felt the same way.
Yeah,
I really did.
I mean, but I know you felt that way. I felt that way too. Before I'd ever gotten my card, and I would play an event, and I knew, like, I graduated from college, and I didn't go to the tour school to begin with. I went to work for my dad, and I played a few events, but I wasn't playing but once every 2 months in a tournament. And, man, I felt rusty, and I felt like, man, I got to prove myself. And I didn't play as well as I should have.
Sure.
Because I was putting too much pressure on myself to show everybody what I could do.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot on here as far as, is it harder to get there? Is it harder to stay out there? And one of the things that you talked about, too, is the mindset of a guy with status versus somebody that once you have status, you're not going to live and die off of every shot. You can go at a pin and it not ruin your career per se, and I think for young guys that mindset or that discussion is so important, because it's, in the end, it's still a ball and a target, and you need to try to play the golf course to the best of your abilities to shoot the lowest score you can, but it's really easy to get overwhelmed by everything else, and again, let your mind wander to a place it shouldn't go to.
So, this is really funny that we're talking about this on here, but I really don't think that there's anybody, when you want to prove to everybody else how much you know when you get to a spot like that. I'm not talking specifically about you, I'm talking about everybody. And you don't really want any advice. It's like, well, I can do this. And boy, that's where you need the most advice. That's where you need somebody that loves you and cares about you and says, hey, we need to be thinking about this.
Yeah.
And I don't think most people that go out there to begin with will admit that they don't know and they need some advice. They want to show the world I can do it. That's just the nature.
Sure. I mean, there's so much to it, from traveling arrangements to endorsement deals to agents to corporate outings and all kinds of stuff. Like, especially in today's world where it's 24/7. I mean, they're on you, more so than you felt the same way, but it's as your career got, as you got older into your career, longer into your career, you felt more. It was more pressure because of more social media and all that stuff, right? And it's probably even more so with the money now.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure. Actually, I'm glad I played in the era that I played in. I think there's so many eyes on everybody, and everybody's judging everybody constantly, and tough to live under that sort of environment.
Well, we sure wish Big Mike the best of luck. We're going to be following along closely, as I'm sure you guys are too. Again, it's the mini tour journey is tough. He's got with this little with the phone call heard around the world, he's got a little bit of a leg up now with a little bit of help from JT. Awesome that JT did that. It was really cool. Good on Justin. But again, we wish Big Mike the best of luck, and we thank you for joining in. As always, let us know if there's any topics, any specific things you want us to talk about. Check us out on halsuttongolf.com, at Hal Sutton Golf, at Chase Cooper Golf. Hal, as always,
A lot of fun. I'm looking forward to more podcasts like this and more stories that human interest stories.
That's right.
So anyway, till next time.
Be the right club today. Yes!